Okay, so now we're going to the next part of this section. Yes, my browser did crash, so I had to restart my whole browser. Yeah, you want to avoid infinite loops. Now remember though, in a loop, it has to be false, or a condition. A condition has to be false. It got to always get to false. A loop, it has to get to false. If it keeps going, it's going to use up resources in your computer. If you are arriving at this channel and you're not a part of the cohort, feel free to follow along in the curriculum if you would like. It is a free course and you can find the link in the description. So let's get back into it. All right, so now we're at Boolean functions. A function that returns a Boolean value is known as a Boolean function. Perhaps the simplest such functions is one that tests an integer to determine if it is even. And we're going to go over the syntax in a second, but let's look at the function. I'm creating a function called isEven. I'm passing in n, which represents a number, but remember it's a parameter, and it's because I'm defining the function. And something to observe and to notice is because of the function keyword. Now, of course, this is for demonstration purposes because this is not descriptive. So here I have a condition. If n, and you remember what the modulus does, 2 is strictly equal to 0. Notice we're not using the double equals. We're using strictly equals, the 3 equals, which you're going to be using that 99.9% of the time anyway. But remember, the modulus is the remainder. It leaves a remainder. If it's no remainder, then I know it's even. If it leaves a 1, then I know it's false. So it says return true if it is even. So once it hits that return, the statement is done. But if it is not even and it's false, it'll go to this else clause and it then run and say return false. Remember, return is returning a value. We want to return a value. Now also understand, you don't have to put a value there. You can just say return, but it won't give you the results you're looking for. And the only time you want to do the return is if it's a certain result you're looking for. And then I'm using the console.log. Is even 4 true, is even 7 false, because 2 goes into 4 evenly, which leaves 0 remainder. 2 goes into 7 3 times, but it leaves a 1 remainder. That's how we check to see if something is even in our programs. It is conventional to name Boolean functions by starting with either is or has. Notice we started it with is. It's a convention. We just follow this convention. It's not syntactically wrong if I don't use is or has, but if I'm coming behind your code and I see that it has an is or has in front of it, I know that that's going to be a Boolean, which creates a nice semantic effect when reading the code. For example, reading is even and we're passing in 4 communicates to the reader that the function should answer the question, is 4 even. This is a convention so widely used by programmers that it is extended to nearly every language. What this says is it's a predicate function. Anything with is or has is we call a predicate function. Let's return to the isEven function above to see how we can use the power of return statements to make it even better. Since return terminates the function, we can leave out the else clause and have the same effect. Okay, I'm about to explain to you how. This is because if n is even, the return statement in the if block will execute and the function will end. If n is odd, the if block will be skipped and the second return statement will execute. Now look at the syntax here. Notice that instead of having the else block, I just put the return false. This is going to end the function because it's right before the ending closing bracket. But within the scope of this condition, if it's true, it will run this one. But if it's false, no need. It'll still return false. I won't need to use an else clause. This update version works exactly the same as the initial function. Additionally, notice that the function returns true when n is when n module 2 is strictly equal to 0, returns true. And if it returns false when n modulus 2 is strictly equal to 0, returns false. In other words, the return value is exactly the same as the value of n modulus 2 strictly equal to 0. This means that we can simply simplify the function even further by returning the value of the expression. So this is what we did. All we did is just added one line. Notice I don't need to return false here because it's going to automatically do it for me. Because if this is not true, it's going to return back false. So let's see that in the code. Let's go back, let's inspect. Let's go to our console. Let me clear this out. And then I am going to first, let's do this first. I'm gonna paste this in. Now, if I run this, what's going to be the result? You should know this. If you don't, gotta keep practicing. Of course, nothing, because I did not call or invoke is even. And now I'm gonna pass into that true. And if I pass in 3, I'm gonna say false. Now let's go ahead and let's look at this one right here. Let me paste that in. Let me run it. Still nothing, because was not. It says it's false. It still gave me false. Why? Because it's returning the Boolean. It knows it's a Boolean. It wants it to be true or false. So the compiler is very smart and recognizes the difference. All right. So that's the end of this video. I am going to stop it here, give you some time to go back and play with the code. Try different things. Try different ways to come up with a different answer. Get a good understanding of how these functions work, and how to write your conditions is another way to write your conditions. So it's extra time for you to continue to refresh your memory of what you've already learned and to apply it. Okay, that's the end of this section, or this part of the section. We're going to go and finish up the next part of the section in the next video. But remember, the more you do, the more you improve. Okay.